Welcome to K-Drama School. I'm your host, Grace Chung, and class is now in session. I got a fan letter a couple months back. I'm just now getting around to it, so thank you for your patience. And let me read it to you, I guess. Hi, Grace. I love your podcast, and as an emerging artist from Montreal, Canada, it has been my constant companion through a very intense production period in this pandemic. I found your podcast when I was looking for episodes pertaining to My Lovely Samsun, a drama I fell in love with earlier this year after watching Crash Landing on You and getting a Viki subscription. Since then, I have listened to almost every single episode of your podcast. I love your insights into Korean culture, and some of the attitudes are very similar to those of my birth country, Pakistan. I know you mentioned Secret Garden being an okay drama, and while there were aspects of it I really loved, I'm really curious as to what made it such an iconic drama at the time it aired. Hyunbin's mother reminded me so much of the toxic Pakistani mothers-in-law, unrepentant and cruel, and even he reminded me of some of the boys from my dad's family. Other than that, congratulations on submitting your dissertation. I love your podcast, and while I cannot begin to fathom how much work goes into producing each episode, I just wanted to let you know how much I appreciate you and your insights. Your interviews are incredible too. Thanks so much for such a great podcast, and I really hope you're able to continue in whatever format you find most feasible. Shazia. Thank you, Shazia, for such a lovely letter, and thank you for putting in a request. As I encourage all my listeners to do, if you have a show that I haven't covered yet and you want me to cover it, put in a request and I will watch the show and I will cover it for you. This notion of the toxic mother or toxic mother-in-law, I mean, we always have to keep that in check, that even though it's a female individual, right? Like this cis female mother individual, what we're really seeing is patriarchy at its finest, right? Why does a mother or mother-in-law obsess over her son, right? And it's like, well, he's the ticket out. He's the ticket to her power. And if you watch any of those like Korean period dramas that are set in like the Joseon dynasty or the Goryeo dynasty, Silla dynasty, like back in the day, I'm talking centuries ago, like a millennia ago. Those, if you watch those shows, you'll always see that the women are like obsessed with who they're gonna marry and bearing a son. I mean, they're obsessed with these ideals because it has to do with accessing power. Their access to power was only their bodies, all right? And that is a result of patriarchy, controlling society, controlling women. And I do talk about this with my guest today. Thank you for your email. And I'm very happy to talk about Secret Garden, which is a 2010 drama. It's a K-drama written by Kim Eun-suk, and all of you guys know who Kim Eun-suk is because she wrote some of the biggest K-drama hits in the history of Korean television, and that includes Descendants of the Sun, Goblin, the Great and Lonely God, Mr. Sunshine, The King, Eternal Monarch, Lovers in Paris, A Gentleman's Dignity. All right, and Kim Eun-suk is currently working on a show called The Glory, which will star Song Hye-kyo, and it's a mini-series with just 8 episodes, and the director is An Gil-ho, who directed Record of Youth. And honestly, like he's directed some pretty awful shows. Like one of them is Memories of Alhambra, which you'll find on Netflix, and it stars Hyunbin. It's trash. It stars Hyunbin, and he is also the star of Secret Garden. Secret Garden is very often cited as one of those shows that is probably the most queer. But you know, like whatever's the most of anything is just, it's all relative, right? Like, I mean, who gives a shit? I would say Secret Garden is a queer show. A lot of people say that Secret Garden is a queer show alongside Coffee Prince. Like they'll cite those two as the most queer. But again, it's like, who gives a shit about what is the most queer? It's just like, yeah, there's queerness present. Secret Garden also does feature a gay character. That gay character, unfortunately, is and very typically is standing on the sidelines and just kind of being this a distant admirer of his crush, and he unfortunately has to deal with unrequited love. And that's a very common trope in a lot of TV shows and films, not just in Korea, but like all over the place, right? Of course, that's changing nowadays with the increase in queer texts, but to this day, I would say queer characters are still highly marginalized in Korean dramas. A lot of them do not get to have a happy ending with their lovers, and that is the unfortunate truth. And I believe that that should start to change very, very soon. We are seeing more and more queer rhetoric entering Korean dramas increasingly, and I've mentioned this in previous episodes. I'd say that Korean television shows have always had a high amount of queerness, though. Like any form of excess in storytelling or excessive affect or pushing the boundaries of realism, these can all be interpreted as queerness in a text. In the case with Secret Garden, there's also an argument for gender fluidity. I would say that's perhaps the biggest argument of queerness in this show. So Kim Ju-won, played by Hyun-bin, he's this rich brat and the heir of a department store. And Gil-in, played by Ha Ji-won, is an orphan. She's a working class woman who also works as a stunt actor. And they develop this relationship that initially starts off very rocky. That's very typical of most rom-coms. And then they eventually fall in love, right? But they also get lost in the mountains and they drink some booze that switches their bodies whenever it rains. So Gil-in would have Chuan's body and Chuan would have Daim's body. And it's like a very weird sort of thing, but it's happening. It's happening on the show, right? This sort of like hang up over like genitalia is it's very brief. It doesn't really stay for too long. Really, you see the difference in who is who based on how the actor plays that other character. And I think that's really a testament to like, yeah, gender doesn't really matter, like who you are as a person matters, your personality, your character, like those things matter. So I thought that was a positive aspect of this show. The show is very weird. The queerest character for me in this show was actually the restaurant owner in the mountain, played by Kim Mi-kyung, who is an actress you've seen in numerous K-dramas playing a mom. So this actress plays the medium for Laim's father's body. And Laim's father is played by Chung In-gi. And if you look at shamanism in Korea, there is also this great deal of gender fluidity that's present. So the female shaman can channel or serve male spirits, and male shamans can do the same for female spirits. And sometimes, a lot of the times actually, shamans will dress in what we'd call drag in the queer community, but they'll wear clothes that are, very gender specific, regardless of their own gender, right? In order to channel these spirits or serve these spirits or do their thing. Of course, gender queerness doesn't have to be confined to the liminalities of spirituality or fantasy. But if you listen to Jackie Monahan's podcast, where I appear in as a guest, I talk to her about this. Gender queer people are like gods. We have a lot to learn from the queer community and from the genderqueer folks specifically, and the trans folks. In fact, we learn from them all the time, whether society wishes to admit this or not. But genderqueer members of our society are the ones who teach us how to break out of molds and conventions and how to really align with our true selves. They teach us how to be honest with ourselves, which requires questioning and asking and seeking and receiving support and answers. And I recently wrote a poem about my higher power and how my higher power is not gender specific. And I refer to them as they. And that feels a lot more right to me than any notion of a higher power being a father, which is like disgusting and weird. That's my take on Secret Garden. I do have a few shows coming up for the month of August. I mean, it's still very early. It's August 2nd. It's very, very early. So who knows if this will change. But August 20th, I have a show. And August 22nd, I have a show. Also, tonight, August 2nd, I do have a show in North Hollywood, but it's not really a show. I don't really recommend people come to that. In fact, a couple of people did come to that show last month and they left after like a few minutes because it was so awful. I was sitting in my car waiting for my time because it is an awful show. Like I can't even sit there and bear it. So I had to sit in my car and wait it out, and I missed my guests. But yeah, I'm not going to plug that one. You don't even need to know where it is. But August 20th and August 22nd, I definitely have shows. I will post details of that on my website, and you may come to that. I guess other updates of mine, I don't know, like last Tuesday, I was really meditating hard about how to become fearless. And, that's still a big question for me, but like, some of the answers that I got, I might have mentioned it, is that, and I need to be brave, and that I can ask for the impossible, that I should ask for the impossible, and that I can, just rely on myself at all times. And some some of the sort of repressed traumatic memories that have been re-emerging the last couple of weeks were also a bit, I mean, it was a struggle, I'm not going to lie. And I had to do some sort of self-compassion exercises to process them, right? Like, you can't get rid of any traumas without processing them. Like, it's just a matter of processing them and then letting it become a part of you, like add to a part of you, not have control over you, right? Like, that's the point. And so the way I processed it was, through this exercise that I learned from my therapist, which is that, you sort of return to that place, which had happens. Like, it just happens through flashbacks, when I'm least expecting it. Um, and it just comes up. And when it comes up, rather than shake it off or, you know, pretend like it's not there or get mad and have this like angry sort of dialogue back and forth with the mind, which is what I tend to do, I sort of side up with myself, like my young self in that moment. And I stand behind her and I tend to all of her feelings. I ask her what she's feeling, or I acknowledge what she's feeling. I honor all of her feelings. And then I tell her that like she has nothing to be afraid of or nothing to worry about, that I am here to protect her. And I ask her, I'm like, what would you like me to do right now? What is it that you would like me to do? Want me to tell them off? Want me to escort them out? So that's what I've been doing. It's like, this is my house, my body's my house, and all these beings in there, all these people who are adding these misconceptions of myself, misperceptions, mis self perceptions, like they added in. They've been added in since my childhood. Parents have done it, so called friends have done it, authority figures like teachers have done it, like pastors have done it. A lot of pastors have done this. And they just like, you know, I mean, a lot of them were bullies. I mean, I will honestly admit, like, that's sort of the weird and rough conclusion that I had to come to, is that I was severely bullied in my Korean American church growing up. It was the same church I went to from age 8 to 18, but like, 10 years of being bullied and gaslit and told that like everything about me is wrong. I mean, that's like really rough. And there were these like very specific moments that just started to like peek out from inside of me, in my mind, and I had to deal with it. I really had to deal with it. And you know the only reason why they're coming up now is because it's time to get rid of them. I mean, it's time to clean house. So I just said to them, I was like, thanks for your visit, but I need to ask you to leave. This is my house, this is where I want peace and calm, and you're disturbing that, and that's not okay. So I got to escort you out. Don't let the door hit you in the ass, because it's going to ruin my door. It's feasible. I mean, I know that all of us deal with it every single day. All of us deal with some kind of battle in our minds. There's some person or some moment in our past that nags at us, and it's possible to sweep them out. That's your house. That's your mind. That's your heart. That's a place where you deserve absolute peace and calm, and you have every right to escort people who do not belong in there out of there. And you have the ability to do it. So that's what I was doing these last couple of weeks. And, it's been cathartic. It's been cathartic, but also very emotionally draining. I mean, that's the downside. It is very emotionally taxing to do those exercises, because it's a process. You don't get anything without some form of work. It's it's a lot of work to do that. That's why it's taxing. That's why after I do it, I'm like, I need a nap, you know? So, because of that, I've been a bit fatigued, but I've also like been hanging out with my friends a lot, and that's been awesome. Like I went on a hike to Switzer Falls with Kristen Lundberg, and that was great. It was like this beautiful, marvelous little place that I never have been to. But you hike through a forest, and then at the end of the hike is this water hole with like just natural creek water. And you can swim in there and splash around. So we did that, and it was fucking fantastic. And then when we're walking back, I mean, this was the terrifying part. Like there, there were these rocks, there were a lot of rocks, but like there were some rocks that were just covered in little tiny black worm like things. And I could not look at them for a long time because if I dwelled on them, I would have freaked out. I mean, that's like I have a severe insect phobia, worm phobia. I have a phobia of holes and things like that. So this was extremely triggering, and I had to basically squint throughout the whole hike back. So that's the downside. Is like I don't know what time of day, or I mean this was like around 5 p.m. So maybe around 5 p.m. is when this happens. So that was fucking freaky as hell. But we saw a lot of animals. Like we saw a chipmunk. We saw like 4 deer. We saw we saw a frog. We saw a tadpole that was becoming a frog. Like it was a frog, but it still had the tadpole tail. But unfortunately, it was dead. Like he had just died when we encountered it. We saw a bird. It was like a blue and black bird. It's not a blue jay. It was like blue, but it was also black. So I have no idea what bird it was, but it was a very noisy bird. And I remember like we were eating cherries, and this bird was staring at us. But it was a fun hike, and one of the things that I learned from this hike, this particular hike, even though I've been to many hikes, I've been to the forest many times, is like trees grow in all different directions. Like oftentimes in a drawing, we'll draw a tree like upright and try to draw it as straight as possible. But a lot of trees grow in multiple different directions. I mean, we saw a tree that was literally like almost touching the ground, like horizontally growing, like levitating across the ground, and it was alive. This was a tree that was just growing that way, just straight, like horizontally. And I'm like, wow, that's wild. So like I just kind of learned from my own illustration and art purposes, it's like, well, trees grow in all different directions, and there's just really like, why should we draw trees straight? Sort of relearning that. um in fact, a lot of nature looks as though it was artificially made. Like we saw so many like patterns in trees that looked like faces. We saw so many like branches that just looked specifically like it was designed into a peace sign. But that's just how they're growing. So I think that's sort of the cosmic hilarity of nature. It's like, all right, nature is random, and yet within that randomness we find some kind of familiarity. And I guess that's somehow like reconnecting, and I think that's why human beings need to go out into nature a lot and this and that. We're just going to have to resign to the fact that there's going to be another lockdown. I think there's just going to be another lockdown. Like I'm mentally and emotionally prepared for that already. I'm okay with it. So be careful out there is all I can say. Today I'm going to talk to Kelly Ryan, who is a very, very funny comedian. She is a beast. Like she is a killer. I met Kelly in LA. Kelly is a regular at a lot of these LA clubs, including the world famous Comedy Store. She is a hilarious comedian. She is queer as well. She is from Connecticut originally, but she currently lives in Portland. I guess she's moving back to LA now. Sounds like she's in the transition phase of moving back to Los Angeles. But throughout the whole quarantine for like a year and a half, she was in Portland for a while doing comedy over there. But she's back in town, back in LA, doing her thing. Kelly was one of the comics that was on my show in Portland alongside Simon Gibson, both very, very funny people. and it was a blast. And she's just overall like a wonderful person. So let's talk to Kelly Ryan.
My poorly behaved Chihuahua is now officially a service dog, so he is getting all of his stuff today
Okay,
for it.
good for him.
Yes, he has been promoted, so we'll
Yeah.
see.
What's the
Um,
process in getting your dog to be a service dog?
you fill out a form and you pay some money, and that's pretty much it. So,
Fucking
hey,
America.
hey, psycho.
What's your
I
dog's
don't.
name?
His his full name is Superintendent. They named him that at the shelter, and now his name is just Soup. So,
That's amazing. I love that.
yeah, no, he's great. He's really great. He's just a Chihuahua, so he's
Yeah.
crazy. But
Yeah, I heard that Chihuahuas, like everybody thinks that Chihuahuas are like they have this irritable personality and that they're like insecure, blah blah blah. But they're not like they're dogs, right?
yeah,
And dogs are like pack animals and they need to have a
yeah,
sense of purpose. It's just that they're so small and human beings treat them like toys and they
yeah.
start going insane.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's super protective, and his we will actually like howl with him. It's very funny. He loves feeling like he's in a pack even though he's clearly not, but he loves feeling that way, and
Yeah.
he because I have such good hearing,
Mm,
it's like any little thing can kind of set him off.
yeah.
He's just really smart, so
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah. Were the fireworks going off over in your area?
No, so we were up in Seattle actually this weekend, and
Okay.
I think there's some rule up now in the Pacific Northwest where you can't light them because of the fires and everything.
Oh,
So there
wow.
really weren't many fireworks at all,
Okay,
which
that's
was great.
amazing. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really amazing. Yeah, because
What
LA,
about near you?
it's full of dogs and it's full of fires, and
Yeah.
they still set them off. Like I don't think there's any way to stop them, you know?
Yeah. I mean, maybe the
Fire
whole city just needs a team meeting.
it's just never gonna happen.
No.
Um, how are you liking it over there?
In well, it's fine. I it's
That's so sad.
I'm not really used to there are a lot of passive aggressive people, and I'm just not used to that. So
Oh,
getting
yeah.
getting adjusted to that is definitely
Mm-hmm.
a new
Yeah.
vibe, if you
Uh-huh.
will.
Uh-huh. Well, LA didn't give you enough of that already?
Well, I think it was kind of expected because it was like, okay, all these people
Yeah.
are fake and they're trying to boost their career and
Sure.
blah, blah, blah. But
Yeah.
it's like here they're passive aggressive. And I'm like, but you're not even trying to climb a social ladder or
Yeah.
anything. Like,
Yeah.
there's no motive to being rude. It's just to be
Right.
rude.
I know. I understand that. I was in Boise, Idaho, right before
hmm
visiting Portland last, like a few weeks ago.
hmm
And Boise, Idaho was the same. Like
Yeah.
people were not nice there. And I was like, where do you guys get the gall to be dicks? Like your city's not cool enough for you to
I don't know.
be
I don't
dicks.
know. It's very strange. And even last night I had an incident where we were out in Seattle and these girls were
Yeah.
just being so mean to me for no reason. I was like, what is going on? Like,
Like comics or just like social setting?
just random girl. We were at like a trivia night and these girls
Oh,
were just talking smack. And I was
just
like,
hating.
excuse? Yeah, just haters.
That's so weird. That's weird.
I know.
Yeah, I don't understand what that is about. Like, I like Portland. I've been to Portland like for the first time 2 years ago for the
hmm
Haha Harvest Comedy Festival, and
Oh, okay.
I really liked that experience a lot because I thought the festival was amazing. The people who were running it were amazing, and I met a lot
hmm
of Portland comics. But there was this one incident when I went back this time, like 2 3 weeks ago when I was there.
hmm
Um, I went to a mic. It was at the garage, like
Oh,
Monday
yeah, yeah,
nights,
yeah. Yep.
and um, I don't want to say her name, but what? Fuck it, I'll just say it. It's who I'm sure you know.
Oh.
Do you know?
I
Okay,
know of her.
she's a Portland comic. She's very, very
Okay.
funny. We don't really know each other like that, but after the festival,
Sure.
she added me on Facebook, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I did their podcast twice, right?
Uh-huh.
And so
Oh
I go to
no.
the garage. I see her go
I'm
up on
bracing
stage.
myself for whatever this
I
is.
see her go up on stage. She destroys. She does amazing, and she comes down and she sits right behind me. So I turn around. And I'm like, "Hey, nice set." And she looks at me like she has no
Who?
idea who I am. And I was like, "It's Grace Jung." And she's like, "Hey." I was like, "You don't know who I am, do you?" She's like, "No." I was like, "I did your podcast twice.
Oh
You
my
added me on
God.
Facebook. Fuck you." She was
Oh
just
my
like, she
God.
was like, "My bad." I was like, "Man, fuck you. Good set though." Which I meant. I meant. Like I think she's a great comic. She's really bold.
Let
She's
me see
like
if I even, I don't know.
uninhibited. She's amazing. But like I just I don't
Oh, this girl.
it's hard for me to accept somebody who can't remember me after I do her show twice.
No, no. What? That doesn't make any. I don't. I mean, it's almost laughably
Yeah.
just rude. I'm like shocked at the idea. Even if you did it once, even if you, even if you've just met each other a couple of times, there aren't
Yeah.
that many women in comedy. What are we talking about? Wow,
And the
what a
thing is,
fumble.
it happens a lot, right? Because we're comics, we meet a lot of people, see a lot of faces. So even
Yeah.
if we don't fully remember name and face, if somebody comes up to you as if they recognize you and says hello, the
Roll
natural
with it.
inclination is just to be like, yeah, hey, what's up? Like it happened to me yesterday, right? I was like, oh,
Yeah.
hey, what's up? Yeah, good to see you. It's just be friendly. Like don't.
Yeah. That is so, yeah. I mean, no, there's just no tact there to not even act like you know what the hell is going
Yeah,
on.
yeah, I agree. It's tactless. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. It lacks tact.
Oh, that is funny.
But she's a
Oh,
great comic. And there are a lot of comedians, like I mean you're buddies with Simon Gibson.
yes.
Amazing comedian,
Hmm.
amazing person,
Yep. Hmm.
and like there are plenty of people like that. So I mean, it's for me, it's an
Yeah.
anomaly, but like, I do sense that like there's some LA comics out here who were like, "Oh, can you put me in touch with some Portland comics because I want to visit Portland?" And I tried. I was like, "Yeah, talk to this person, this person, this person," and then she said she couldn't get in touch with anybody. Like everybody ignored her emails and like nobody they're like unpenetrable. And I was just like, "Oh, that's weird." Like, so I
Yeah.
think it's like somehow, for some reason, it's somehow more insular than LA.
Yeah.
And it's like once you penetrate through that mold and once you're in, you're like family. But
Yeah.
it's like before that, it's like I don't know what it is that you need to do.
Yeah. Well, so it's a very, and I felt this way when I first got here, it was a very prove yourself mentality. Like,
Oh,
who are these people coming into our city type of thing, which
right.
I get. It's a
Yes.
smaller scene, whatever. Whereas in
Yeah.
LA, there are so many scenes within the scene,
Right.
like
Right.
you can be on the alt side, you can do clubs, you
Yeah.
can do, stuff in Orange County. Like,
Uh-huh.
there's so many different areas to be a part of. And then
Oh.
with Portland, like there's really only one club.
Yeah.
So you're all fighting for those spots,
Right.
and then they're especially at this time too, like, a few months ago, there weren't that many shows.
Yeah.
So people are fighting for stage time. Yeah,
It's a whole thing.
it's a whole thing.
And right now you're doing that Portland's funniest person at the Helium or
Yes.
something, right? Yeah.
Yep.
I saw
Yep.
that you like made one. I saw like somebody's announcement. You made one of the rounds.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, yeah.
The next round is I guess there's only three. It's so the preliminaries, and then next round is the semifinals, and then it's the finals.
Yeah.
But mine is August 5th.
Uh-huh.
So I have plenty of time to
Yeah.
prepare, but
Yeah. Yeah. How much time do you need to do for that?
I think it's the same as this last one, which was like 5 to 6 minutes.
Okay.
And so I think it might be similar, maybe a bit longer. I'm not
Okay.
sure, but this is around where it's not judged by the audience. It's actual judges that come in and
Oh,
everything.
interesting. That's so interesting. So there would be like
Yeah.
veteran comics or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like on last week when I did it, it was like there was one guy who he was very funny, but he brought like 30 people and they all
Yeah.
voted for him, type
Yeah.
of thing. So
Yeah.
some rounds, that happens for everybody that wins. So like some rounds are going to have very new comics
Mhm.
who won and are now going to the semifinals. So it's going to be either really new comics
Mhm.
or like veterans that
Yeah.
are, it's going like head to head
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah. Isn't that funny when comedy like bringer shows end up becoming a popularity contest rather
Yeah.
than
Yeah, I've dealt with my fair share of Uncle Clyde's comedy contests at Flappers, where I have continued to come in third, and I get the bucket of French fries, and I leave fuming because I didn't bring anybody ever.
Yeah.
But I was like, and so I would never pass on to the next round, and I would always just stand there with a
Yeah.
huge pile of French fries, tater tots, whatever, and
I mean, Flappers got some dope ass tater tots. I mean, I'll give
oh,
you
I'm not
that.
hating on the food at all.
But
At all.
but it's like you'd rather just win the comedy competition and get the recognition that you
Yeah,
deserve,
or
right?
just move on to the next rest something, but
Yes.
I
Yes.
mean, you can't win them all.
You can't. And it's I don't know how you feel about it, but like I'm personally like morally and ethically against the whole bringer show concept. Like
Yeah, it's
I
shitty.
really don't like it. I'm like
No.
you. I don't tell people and bring people to things,
Yeah.
to my detriment because a lot of these like alt show bookers are like bring people. You got to bring
Yeah.
people, like sell. And I'm like, fucking that's the producer's job. Like I don't want to have to do this pyramid scheme thing for you, you know? It's very pyramid schemey. And
Yeah, I got caught into when I first moved to LA, I didn't understand what a bringer show was at
yeah.
all.
Yeah.
And I got asked to someone said, "Oh, does anyone want this spot at the Comedy Store? It's in the main room.
Mm,
It's a show that's like a brand, like it's one night only. We just found out that we have to do it. Yada yada yada." So I
right.
reached out to the woman and I was like, "I am more than down to perform in the Comedy Store main room." I'm like young and I'm like, like I
Yeah.
definitely down. She goes, "Okay, all you have to do is bring at least 30 people." And I just moved to LA, so I was like, I don't even know 30 people, but believe it or not, I did somehow find a way of filling up the
Wha-
first few rows and getting like 35 people there.
Wow.
And after that, I was like, I have been scammed. I
Yeah.
wasn't even paid. Not,
No.
I mean, nothing. And the
Yeah.
only reason there was an audience was because of my
You're 35.
unbelievable ability to, I guess, gather people who had no idea who I was. So,
Yeah. It's a superpower. You have like a
yeah.
bringer superpower.
And I'll
Lord.
never do it again.
Yeah. No, it sucks. It's not honest. It's very, very dishonest. That's what I don't like
Yeah.
about it, the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but you're not from SoCal, are you?
No.
Where are you from?
No, I grew up in Connecticut and then I lived
Ah,
in Texas for school and stayed there for a minute and then I
yeah.
moved to Southern California.
So you're a tri-state area chica.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Where are you from?
I'm from New York.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I
Yeah, no
think
wonder you're so like realistic and down to earth and
yes,
everything.
yes.
Okay.
That's why yeah. I was like there's something East Coasty about her. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It makes
yeah.
sense. That's
Yeah.
cool. Connecticut to Texas, that's like a huge jump. Did you like it in
Yeah.
Texas?
I like parts of it.
Okay.
But there are other things. Like I actually just went back a couple weeks ago. I was drunk and bought a plane ticket with one of my friends, and so we went back to the area where we went to school.
Yeah.
And some of it, again, I loved, and then other things, it's just like you can tell that there is
Mm.
just a
Mm-hmm.
degree of difference in like how
Mm.
women are treated versus men.
Sure.
You know,
Sure.
and it
What do
gets
you love about
exhausting.
Texas?
Food.
Oh yeah?
Food, the music is great. Like the bar scene is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's truly it's my favorite city. Fort Worth is my favorite city to go out in. It's just so much fun. Like
Wow.
there's always live music. There's always something going on.
Yeah.
And the people, for the most part, are very, very nice.
Oh.
Um, it's just sometimes you get a hint of misogyny and sexism and all that good stuff. So,
Yeah. I actually, because I'm applying for jobs and stuff right now, there was like a Texas Tech University,
yep.
TTU.
Mm-hmm.
They were looking for some postdoctoral researcher thing. And they were
Mm-hmm.
asking questions that like no other application had asked me. Things about like, are you 25? Are you a man? And did you do this and that? I'm like, what? Like, what the fuck are these weird questions? So maybe
Yeah.
that has something to do with this misogynistic culture you're speaking of.
Yeah. They're trying to, a lot of universities in Texas are trying to change because they are facing pretty much just a lot of backlash for how they've been acting. I mean, there's just it's almost like they're 50 years behind everybody else. So they're probably taking steps forward now of like,
Yeah,
okay, how do we hire more women? How do we, hire people of different ethnicities, different backgrounds, all that good
right.
stuff because they're trying to make up for all of the horror that they have caused.
Yeah. Since the conception of Texas as a state.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
And all the people that they killed and dislocated and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
okay, that makes sense. Yeah, and you're right, it is slow. Like the TTU's job application, the search, the call was literally like a postdoctoral fellowship for anti-racism. Like that's it's very
Oh.
straightforward and blatant like that. Like it's not specific to any field, it's just very
Yeah.
broadly anti-racism position. Like
Yep. Yep.
anybody, whoever. And then they ask these like weird ass questions in the application. And I'm like, you understand racism structural, right? Like this is part of the issue. Like your application in and of itself is a problem.
Yeah.
Like,
They're
but
like, yeah, they're just looking for a simple solution to a massive issue that they don't understand the layerings of. Like, it's just, man, yeah. Well, that's what I told, because when everyone was moving to Austin, my boyfriend was like, would you ever want to move to Austin? I said,
yeah,
as long as Greg Abbott is the mayor or the governor or whatever the fuck of
yeah,
Texas,
yeah,
there's no way in hell I am
mm,
moving there. That
yeah,
man hates women.
yeah, yeah,
It's just not happening.
yeah. And a lot of people who hate women that much, it's because they're jealous of women, you know?
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
made this very conscious decision while I was on acid that I
Sure.
was like, I am never going to have children
Hmm.
because our society doesn't know how to value the miracle that our bodies are, which is that we can conceive children. Like we
Yeah.
can make human beings. Men can't
Yeah.
do that. We'll
No.
just take a little bit of their jizz and we'll just like inseminate ourselves if we wanted. Like we don't need men to make a
No.
human population, but we can. And because society knows this and patriarchy knows this, they do everything they can to control us, you know,
Hmm.
control our
Hmm.
bodies. And I was like, for as long as you don't value women's bodies for the worthiness that they are, I am never going to give you what you want, which is another person, a labor force, some money maker, something. I'm not going to give it to you.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. I
I'm sticking
mean,
with that.
they're just, I think women for the longest time have been told exactly what our plan has to be in life, exactly how everything has to go, et cetera, et cetera. And now that women are finally saying, hold on a second, you can't run everything, they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. We are now oppressed. The fact that I cannot control you means that you are controlling me for not being able to control you.
Yeah, it's like, where are my rights? Where are my men's rights as a man, as a white man? Where are they? Yeah. And it's not like that. You know, I want everybody to feel empowered. I think anybody's sense of disempowerment is what spreads this
Yeah.
this lie, which is that you are disempowered. But I learned something recently. It's that power is inherent to every individual. It's not something that can be given or taken away. It's like you have
Mm-hmm.
power inherently. It's
Mhm.
just you yourself needs to believe that and know that fully. And the
Mhm.
process or the way in which you come to understanding that is what takes so long. It's
Mhm.
what takes so much time. And
Yeah,
that's why,
it's kind of
yeah.
like we're all born at a like a 0 meter,
Hmm.
and whatever way you, I guess, let people take power goes one way, and
Yep.
then you have to be the one to push it the other way,
Right.
type of
Yes.
thing. But everyone's kind of set with the same ability
Yeah.
to, you know, better themselves or
Uh-huh.
whatever.
Yeah.
Everyone has that same compass. If they
Yeah.
whether whatever way they want to move it
Yeah.
is, you know, you have the
It's up
control.
it's up to them. Yeah. Yeah, you
Yeah.
have the choice. Yeah. All of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to swallow. But it's maybe it's like similar to what you're encountering over in the Northwest. It's like this lack of feeling of abundance. Kind of like, in LA, yeah, everybody's competitive and fake and whatever, but it's like it's so big and there's so many scenes, as you
Yeah.
say. So there's this no concept of abundance. It's like I'll always get stage time. I'll always have an audience. There will always be people to fuck with. And then in
Mhm.
the Northwest, it's like, no, like this is all we have. We have one
Mhm.
comedy club, we have one scene, and it's like we're all fighting for it. And
Mhm.
it's like not being able to break free from that
Yeah.
mentality that's turning everybody into assholes.
Yeah, they're also their way of tearing people down is very interesting. It never has anything to do with comedy. It's always like this person isn't as good of a person as I am, type of
Oh,
thing.
wow.
So it's very like, because remember the drama that I messaged you about?
Uh-huh.
It's like that, like nonstop, where it's just like, well, he said this and she said this,
That's
and
so
I was
exhausting.
at this mic and he brought up this woman
Oh
with
my
this intro.
God.
So now we all hate him. And it's like, okay, people, like, you are in stand-up comedy. If you think that white men are going to crush every time with their intros, you're out of your mind. Sorry.
Well, it's so tiresome to really juggle all those things, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's you feel, oh my gosh, you feel like you're walking on eggshells all the time.
Yeah.
All of
Yeah.
the time. It's
I,
like,
I mean, LA has its share of that too. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I think any scene does, but it's like
Hmm.
if like almost everybody around you is like that, then yeah, that's stressful as fuck, Like,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
like Oregon's big, isn't it? It's got like
Yeah.
multiple
And
cities.
Portland is, the second you step outside of Portland, you are like no longer in this hyper liberal space.
Uh-huh.
So everywhere, it's literally like night and day. I mean,
Uh-huh.
I consider myself to be like leaning, leaning left.
Uh-huh.
But I'm not like a hyper
Mhm.
anything type of individual. I'm
Right.
just not. And
Right.
so, like, when I leave Portland, my sets are entirely different in front of these audiences because
Mm.
they are not, I mean, certain just terminologies they don't know. Like these people have never seen a transgender person in their life. Like it is like stepping into a whole nother universe.
Yeah.
So for a lot of comedians and a lot of people in Portland, when they have this all, like high and mighty attitude, and then
Right.
they go to these towns, they bomb because the towns are like, we don't understand any of the words you're saying because
Yeah.
like there was a set that I last week when I was at Helium, there was a comedian who went up and he used the word cisgender a lot.
Oh.
And I was thinking, I was like, okay, so obviously in Portland, everyone knows what cisgender is.
Mhm.
But if he went down to, Albany,
Mhm.
Oregon,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
used the word cisgender, people would be like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Like, it's.
And then they'll get mad because they're like, why is he talking down to me?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. They're like, oh, this guy thinks he's hotshot because he lives in the big city. Blah, 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 blah.
What you're saying right now is actually you're identifying the one of the core problems of our left progressive liberal group, which is
Yeah.
that we have a lot of terminologies, a lot of jargon to
Yes.
define microaggression, critical race, and la la la.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But but it's like a lot of Americans are, you know, they're undereducated. Our public school
Yeah.
systems are shit.
Yep.
My parents, who are Democrats, like staunch
Hmm.
Democrats, they're immigrants. They don't speak English well.
Hmm.
And they watch Fox News.
Hmm.
And I'm like, why the hell are you always watching Fox News?
Hmm.
And my mom, she tried to explain it recently and it just didn't make
Yeah.
any sense. She's like, well, I like how they say like it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your kids are? And then they just go to they just go to the weather and then they go to the really fast news rundown and then I could just sleep. And I was like, you watch Fox News because their English is a lot easier. And she
Because
was
it's
just like,
yeah.
okay. I was like, that's
Yeah.
why a lot of migrant workers watch Fox News. And some of them will turn into that
Yep.
ideology. And
Hmm.
like I met this pro Bernie woman like from Torrance. She was like so
Hmm.
pro Bernie. And
Hmm.
she's like third generation Japanese American woman and she's like so pro Bernie and she was just like, why do your parents watch Fox News? I was like, this is something that you and I need to understand. It's like our parents don't speak English well. A lot of
Hmm.
people in Southern California don't speak English well. Come on.
Hmm. Yeah.
They're going to watch easier English, easier news. So, what does that tell us on the liberal side? We need to fucking get off our goddamn high horses. You know,
Yeah.
we need to equip ourselves with the ability to talk to one another without making them feel like idiots. Even if that
Yeah.
is not our intention, you know? It's like
Hmm.
how do we actually communicate without using jargon, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
hard.
I mean, I 100% agree. I think it's kind of it's and I think it's across the board. I mean, not even
Yeah.
just with political stuff, but also like
Yeah.
when someone will say, "Oh, they're a narcissistic sociopath." It's like, okay, my parents are like, "That's what we just call an asshole." That's it. Like, I don't need a clinical description of what is going on to know to stay the hell away from them.
Yeah, he's just a dick. Do you mean
He's
he's a
just a
dick?
dick.
Yeah. What do you mean he's like a what do you call it? The B level bipolar disorder. What are you talking about? Like,
Yo, literally,
yeah, what
what
do you
are
mean
you
on the
saying?
spectrum of what? What are you talking about? Like, yeah.
Just say they're a little off.
Yeah.
I'll figure it
They're a
out.
little odd. They're a little odd. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, no, it's totally. I mean, I went to Montana last summer
Yeah.
and loved
Wow.
Montana.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. They're
Yeah.
so funny too because they're like, we don't really identify with any political thing because we're just all Montanans. And I'm like, whoa. Okay, we are simplifying everything.
Yes.
But they, I mean, are just starting to use like Facebook a lot.
Oh my God.
They everybody has an Android. If you have an iPhone, you're stupid because why would you spend money on a phone like that?
That is
Like it's
stupid.
a
They're right.
totally different demographic.
Lord. Yeah.
And it's like these people are and they're all doing it, so it's
Yeah.
not like
Mm-hmm.
like we were the weird ones.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I can't imagine if like some of them, because I love some of them. They're great and we're
Yeah.
obviously friends on Facebook and all that
Yeah.
stuff. But the stuff that they talk about online, like the stuff, I mean, it's just, if I sent them the like, I guess, posts that are you in Comedy Gal Pro Tips?
Yeah.
If I sent them some of those posts, they'd be like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah.
You know?
They'll be like, this is a problem?
I didn't know this was a problem. I didn't know this was a problem. And that's the thing. Like, you tell people about comedy drama and they're like, what the fuck? Like, you guys are just adult clowns creating your own sadness at this point.
Yeah.
Like, fucking
Yeah.
figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's this film called Sweetgrass,
Hmm.
and it's literally about Montana cowboys herding sheep in the mountains. It's like an
Sure.
hour and a half long film. That's all it is. And it is beautiful. It's like
Oh, I
epically
bet.
beautiful. Yeah. And like when I saw that, I was like, man, Montana looks gorgeous. And
Yeah.
there was another film. I used to work in film distribution in New York. And there was
Hmm.
another film about like a Swiss French man who does this like long journey with a herd of sheep and donkeys and dogs, and he goes across. It's called the Transhumance way of like herding sheep. Like you literally
Uh-huh.
take a group of sheep and you just fatten them up by just taking them across the land. And this is like, yeah, this is a form of method of farming that like is kind of gone. It's like this long tradition of fattening your sheep up that's just forgotten. Now they just kind of feed them like in a little cage or whatever. But like back in the day, you would just go on this journey for like weeks with your sheep.
That
And
rules.
yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing movie. And I was like telling my boss at the time, I was like, let's get this film. And he's like, Americans don't want to watch movies with subtitles. I was like, Sweetgrass made like $200,000 in the box office. And
Uh-huh.
he's like, that's American. I was like, it's Montana. That movie needed subtitles. I
Yeah.
couldn't understand a fucking word that those cowboys were saying, literally,
Get on
right?
down to sheep and bring him.
Oh my God. You might as well be banging pots and pans next to my ears right now because I can't understand a fucking word. Didn't you have a hard time understanding them?
Oh, half of the stuff, it's just kind of one of those things where you're like, yeah, no, yeah,
And you
sure.
laugh a lot. You're like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I hope it was okay to laugh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, yeah, they, they're just very. I asked, we were at a restaurant, and I asked if they had egg whites instead of just regular
Of
eggs,
course.
and if you have eggs, you have egg whites. Okay, I don't need to go into the math of all of it, but whatever. And I said, "Oh, do you guys do egg white omelets?" And she goes, "We actually have whole eggs here." And I go, "Yeah." I go, "Okay." She goes, "Yeah, so we don't have egg whites." And I was like, "Of course, sure. You're dealing with just a different group of people." I was like, "What are you trying to say to me? Like, what are you?" Just say no. Just say no. Don't try to go about the science of it because clearly.
Yeah. Just whole eggs only here. This is a whole eggs kind of state.
Okay. Why don't you go back to where you're from? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. No, that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, they
ordering
just
food. 'Cause
they're
you have kind of a
it's
strict diet, don't you? Like you can't eat
oh, I have the
gluten and
worst
shit.
diet ever.
Yeah.
The worst diet. I'm allergic to gluten, tomatoes, sesame seeds, almonds, peanut butter, and peanuts. Or wait, not peanut butter and peanuts. Peanuts and I'm not supposed to have garlic, but garlic
Wow.
is so good. I have
It's
to put
so
it in like
yummy.
everything. Yeah. So
Damn.
that's the only one that I can really kind of get away with, but
Yeah.
everything else,
Yeah.
no dice.
Is your sister the same way, or can she eat stuff?
No, she's just allergic to bell peppers and avocado.
Oh wow. Very specific things as well.
Yep. Well, the bell peppers is just like really bad acid reflux, you know.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm sure I'll get that trait later on or
At
something.
some point. You and your sister do a podcast, right?
Yes, we do Just Talking, which we're on a bit of a hiatus right now because I've been out of town for like the past 5 weekends.
Oh wow.
Just be bopping around. So we haven't done one in a minute, but we're gonna get back on track this week. And
Is
yeah,
your
it's really
sister
fun though.
Also there?
In Portland?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow,
Yep.
you guys all migrated over to Portland.
Yeah, because it was so obviously the novel coronavirus was too bad, so we moved because we were like, let's just go save money. A 3-bedroom up here is the same price as Bruce's 1-bedroom in Los Angeles, so it was like, let's just go save money while nothing's open.
Right.
And I work from home, so it was like an easy switch. And then my sister quit her job like a week before the pandemic happened. And then, of course, she couldn't get a job after that.
Yeah.
And then Bruce, my boyfriend, works at the Comedy Store. So
Yeah.
they were shut down.
Yeah.
So we were like, let's just get out of here like for a minute. And so we'll be up here until the end of September. But I'm excited to go back.
Yeah.
So,
No, we're ready to have you back too. It's like
Yeah.
the comedy scene here, like things are back open now, mics are going back up, shows are going back up, and it's weird. I'm like seeing all these people I've never seen before.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll come up and talk to me and they're like, "Oh, I started like 3 weeks ago." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool."
Cool.
Nice to meet
you had
you.
the whole pandemic to think about if you really wanted to do this. and you said, I'm still going to do it. I did hear that there's another Kelly Ryan.
Oh, I haven't met her yet.
Me neither, but I'm kind of
Wow.
like, okay, we're gonna have to duel to see who
Yeah.
can keep the
Yeah.
name.
One of you has to die. Yeah. That
Yeah.
one, the other one's got to go. You're the OG Kelly Ryan that I know.
Well, thank you.
So, yeah.
I should just message her and be like, hey, have you thought about adding a middle initial?
Yeah.
Have you
Like
thought
Kelly
about,
M. Ryan or
yes,
something.
that's my
Yeah.
middle name.
Really?
It starts with an M. Yeah. That was a good
Is it
guess.
is it Marie?
No, Marguerite.
Marguerite. Kelly Marguerite
I thought
Ryan.
about going by Marguerite Ryan because it was more unique, but then I was
Too
like,
long.
it's too long and I'm going to forget. Someone will say it and I'll be like,
Who are they talking about?
I'm not
Oh,
up
it's
yet.
me. I
Oh,
see.
it's me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm using a fake name because I thought the other one was boring. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, okay. I know very, very few comedians who date other comedians. Is this something you talked about at all? Like, I'm curious. Like, what's that like? Like, how did you? I mean, because that's a decision. That's a
Yeah.
very like I have a few rules in comedy, which is like one, I don't sleep with any comedians. It's just
Mm-hmm.
something I don't do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even like smoke. I don't really get high around them or get drunk around them. I'm just like I just
Mm-hmm.
do my thing. If people start getting too friendly, I leave.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously like don't steal and obviously like don't let people treat you like shit. So
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
the three rules I follow. But
Mm-hmm.
you made this decision to date
Mm-hmm.
another comic. Bruce is very very funny. Very very funny guy.
Thank you.
You're both at the comedy store. You're both very very funny. I think
Thank
you're
you.
a great couple.
Thanks.
Um but yeah, like would you have any like things to consider when you decided to get into a relationship with another comic?
Well, when I first started in LA, I kind of knew because on one hand, I had the same reservations, like it's not
Yeah.
smart to date another comedian, blah blah
Right.
blah. And then I realized that I was at something to do with comedy every night. There would be literally no other way to meet somebody. So I said,
It's
you know
true.
what? If you do happen to meet somebody like this,
Yeah.
what harm does it do? You're not I mean, I have another ex in comedy who
Mm.
whenever we see each other, we get along fine. It's no big
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
And, um, but I mean, I'm also not a very dramatic person in regards to
Uh-huh.
relationships. We do not fight. We talk out everything. Whereas
Right.
some people aren't like that. Some people are more like, okay, well, he pissed me off. Now I'm going to tell everybody he pissed me off.
Right.
I don't do that.
Right.
And also we were very good friends beforehand.
Okay.
So it was like neither of us would want to hurt each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just like a Tinder thing where like
Yeah.
the first step was, oh, let's hook up and then see where it goes. We did not touch each other for a very long time
Yeah.
until we were like, uh-oh,
Yes.
we like each other a lot.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it was, I don't know. I was nervous at first. He was very nervous. He was
Mm.
like, let's not rush it, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, like, I'm fine with it.
Right.
Whatever you think we need, then sure. And
Yeah.
here we are almost 3 years later. So
Yeah. No, it's that's amazing.
thanks.
And I like that you guys were, kind of cautious in that way because what that means is you were respectful of each other and you
Yeah.
both really valued your relationship.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the worst thing would have been if we couldn't be friends. Like, that would just really suck because
Yeah.
I truly believe the foundation of our relationship. And I think that that's very important. A lot of my friends who are single, they like to do other dating apps and they like
Yep.
to initially have kind of like a sexual attraction with the
Yes.
person.
Yes.
And I'm just not that way. I've never been that way.
Yeah.
So I don't know
Most
if that
people
helps, but
are not that way. You're right. It does help because I'm getting similar advice from other friends. Like right now, like I'm like very much about the single life. Like I'm very focused on single life. I'm very focused on like successfully achieving this notion that like womanhood can be is a success without marriage and children. Like I'm very
yeah.
stuck on that idea right now. Um, so like I'm not interested in anybody and I'm not like I don't believe in the dating apps or any of that shit. I don't believe in hookup culture either. But I'm getting similar advice from another friend of mine who also has a very good relationship with her boyfriend of several years. And she said, don't have sex with the guy that you meet that you like. Don't have sex with him for a really long time because you don't know each other. If you don't know each other, why are you having sex with them? That's crazy. And then it's like men will typically lose interest after they have sex with a woman, whereas a woman will grow more intimately attached to a man after having sex. And that is, for the large part, the stereotypical truth.
Yeah.
And that's what leads to women going, he's an asshole. He fucked me over.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
what men go, oh, she's crazy. She's crazy. You know,
Yeah.
both people are right and wrong at the same time. It's just the
Yeah.
answer is they should have had a proper foundation, which is
Yeah.
get to know each other, learn
And
to
a lot more
respect each other.
communication. What
Yeah.
are the expectations? Where
Right.
do we want it to go from here? I think
Yeah.
a lot of women will say like, "Oh no, I don't need a boyfriend right now," even though that's what they truly want. Is they want that connection.
Yeah.
And I've also been on the other side of the coin where I've, done stuff with people and then I've said, you know what, I have no interest. And then the
Yeah.
men are like, what the hell? Women aren't supposed to do this. This isn't fair. I was told that you would be attached to me. And it's like, well, I told you what my expectations were right off the bat. I wanted
Right.
nothing to do with you outside of this. So I don't know what you want me to say.
Fair deal. Yeah, you communicated.
Yeah, all it takes, I think, is some transparency.
Yes.
And if you
Always,
ask for
yeah.
transparency, don't be upset with the answer.
Exactly. Exactly. It's all about communication and
Yeah.
truth and honesty with each other, also yourself. Yeah. We'd say these things and then, and then a lot of that shit goes out the window.
Yeah.
Later.
Well, I mean, I've definitely been the bitch who's like, I'm not looking for anything. And then, like, I see him on someone else's Instagram story and I'm like, how dare.
Heartbreak. Yeah. Yeah. No, it happens. It fucking happens. Okay. But I think what you guys have is awesome, and
Thanks.
thank you for sharing that.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I feel very fortunate. I do think it's a rare thing. So
It's rare.
I feel very lucky, but I do think that a lot of it is just, it comes from a lot of honesty. I know a lot of people who don't, I mean, I think when you're friends first, you don't have that fear of like I have never cared what Bruce is doing on his phone, literally ever. And I've had people ask me, like, do you check his phone? I'm like, why the fuck would I check his phone? Even if I did, I'm sure it would be a group chat with all of his guy friends about something with sports or like a very inappropriate meme or something. I am not worried.
Right. Something you don't care about. It's
I
like, that's
don't
his
care.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which demonstrates your independence, right?
Yeah. I mean, if I've also been cheated on before, where I think now that kind of like, I think that part of me is like worn out. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't have the energy for that kind of shit anymore. So if something like that did happen to me, I would just be like, oh, you got to be fucking kidding me. Like, I don't think I would lose my mind. I don't think anything. It would just be like okay. How dare you? I'm taking the dog. Goodbye.
Yeah. Yeah. The healthier choice is usually one that comes with some ease,
Yeah.
Some ease and grace. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's something I'm learning like very, very recently. I used to think like healthy things, healthy decisions had to be brutal and difficult and a nightmare, but turns out no.
Yeah.
Healthy choices are actually easier. They're right in your face and they come with a lot of grace. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is true. I think that a lot of the times we like push ourselves to think that something will make us happy when it really won't. Like, for instance, with the guy that I was seeing who cheated on me, I was miserable in the relationship, but I wanted it to work so badly that I was just forcing myself to be in it. And then of course, to no surprise, I was getting hurt all along in the process. But it's like, if I just step back and been like, I know you think you want this, but what you actually want is happiness in a relationship. You don't want him in particular. You know what
Right.
I mean? Like, and I
Right.
think that there's a different, we think people can be the key to happiness or whatever when it's just not, they're not, you
Mm.
know?
Yeah. That's
It sucks
huge.
and we can waste a lot of time, but,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah. It's a huge realization to realize that like no individual will ever be there to like complete you or,
nope.
that thing that Tom Cruise says to Renee Zellweger is incorrect. She doesn't complete him. That's why she tells him to shut up because it's wrong. It doesn't work like that. Yeah. You got
No.
to complete yourself. You have to be a whole individual and meet another whole individual. That way you can both be independent and not give a
Yeah.
shit what the other person is doing on their phone. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's
I mean,
trust
I don't
there.
think,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, he doesn't care what I'm doing either.
Yeah.
There's just, because it's like, who would I even,
Yeah. You're
you know what
both.
the other thing is? It's like
Yeah.
also we're both so busy that I'm like, if you figured out a way to talk to somebody else, wow. Because I don't have the time. I'm like sitting here trying to figure out if I have time to cook myself dinner later.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah.
So the fact that I don't know, like you hear stories of people who have like 5 or 6 dudes in their phone, and I'm like,
Yeah.
how? What are you doing?
That's because that's their whole world. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a lot. Maintaining relationships is a lot of work. You're right.
Yeah.
And I mean, as comics, we have like a lot to do at all times. It's not just
Yeah.
about writing material and, you know, fleshing them out. It's also like all the other shit, like the emails and the content and blah, blah, blah.
The work never feels done.
It's never done. There's more piling up at all times. And it's also like, when is it going to add up to something?
Yeah.
When is it going to
Yeah.
finally break and make, like, pave me a path? I was listening to Eric Griffin talk to Mark Maron the other day on the WTF pod, and he was just like, he started comedy in his 20s, and then he quit, and then he got back to it in when he was 30, and then he did a few spots. Mitzi Shore was about to like fully lose her mind, like she was like very much like an elderly woman at that point, but saw him in the OR and then said, "You're funny." And then like a year or two later, he was on Workaholics for like 7 seasons. And then he
Wow.
just stopped having to hustle and bustle and do all the shit that I do every single day. And I was just like, man, like that's the dream,
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if, I don't know. I mean, I think there are certain people who will just never feel like they're done, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I,
Who are your top 3 comics, like your gods?
Kathleen Madigan, who is, I love her. Watch her
Yeah.
Netflix stuff. I mean, she's
Yeah.
the best. I love her
Yeah.
so much.
Uh-huh.
So her, I would say, I do love Bill Burr.
Yeah.
Some of his shit I obviously disagree with, but I do like the guy a lot.
He's an amazing comic, yeah.
And then Nicki Minaj.
Oh yeah. Yeah. She
Nicki
is a god.
And Nicki Minaj is funnier than most stand-up comedians. I have to say, I stand by it 100%.
There's so many people like that who are like, they should have been a comic.
They should have been. They should.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of rappers are very fucking
They're
funny.
hilarious. Yeah.
So it's just, and she is just very silly and just, she's great.
Yeah.
I stand by it.
Yeah. No, that's good. I love that. Yeah. Okay. Let me ask you some flashcard questions and then we'll wrap
Ooh.
this. So, okay, the show that I'm discussing today is called Secret Garden. It's a Korean drama that came out in the year 2010. It was very popular, extremely popular. And the writer of that show is like one of the highest paid writers in South Korea. I'm going to ask you some questions based on the show, like some scenarios, and you just answer like what you would do if you were in this person's shoes. Okay?
Okay. Got it.
All right. So you're a 29-year-old stunt woman named Laim, and you wear raggedy ass clothes. You're very tomboyish. You don't care about looks and femininity. You just being a stunt woman is the most important thing to you, okay? You meet a 34-year-old rich brat named Chuwon, and he owns a shopping mall and a bunch of other businesses. He has intergenerational wealth by several generations. He talks a lot of shit to you, but you don't take any of it. You always clap back. And he has beautiful, wealthy women who throw themselves at him, but he's not interested. For some reason, he's hung up on you. He always comes back to you. And one day he calls you to meet him. So you show up and your bag has a broken strap that you pinned back with safety pins. And you notice him staring at it. And then he asks you why you show up to see him dressed like that. What do you do?
I'm a stunt woman?
Uh-huh.
I can fucking kick his ass. I'll do a backflip down the escalator in the shopping mall and kick his ass.
Okay, done
What
deal.
happens in the episode? Does she do that?
No, she gets upset.
Oh, well, yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, I guess.
Shamed her. He shamed her. But she's very angry, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'd be pissed.
Backflip down an escalator of his mall. That's amazing. Okay, great. Awesome. Okay, so now you're the 34-year-old rich brat, Chuwon, okay?
Okay.
You and your K-pop star cousin, Oscar, go on a motorcycle race through the woods, like on a bet. The bet is whoever wins, like, will win the girl, Laim, okay? But she's a stunt woman. She's daredevil. She's like, I want to go too. So the three of you are like motorcycling through the woods. And then Laim gets lost. So you go after her. And then you find her in the woods. And then the two of you just find a restaurant nearby to make a phone call. And the owner of that restaurant offers you food and drinks. And you and Laim drink the booze that they give you. And when you wake up, you find yourself, okay, you're the guy, okay? You find yourself in Laim's body. You have titties and a vagina. And Laim is in your body with cock and balls. What do you do?
I feel like you have to fuck in each other's body to figure out what is going on from their perspective. No?
100% yes. Absolutely. That's the answer. But they don't do it. They don't do it. They don't fucking do it. I would be amazed. I'm like, oh my God, like this is the body of the woman I'm into. I would be touching my own titties. I would, you know, I would do it all. And then I would
take advantage of the situation.
Yeah. They don't do it. They don't do it. I don't know what their problem is. Okay.
Yep.
Great answer. Amazing answer. Okay. So you're back in your regular bodies now. All right. Mm-hmm. You're Laim. Okay. Mm-hmm. You have a part in a Hollywood film that you really, really want, but you missed the audition. So your rich ass boyfriend, Chuwon, turned the director's plane around, made him land in Korea so that he can come and watch you for 5 minutes doing your stunt training at the facility. So you get the part, and then you find out what your boyfriend did for you. What do you do?
Find out what he did. He turned the plane around.
Yeah.
I would just act like that I'm a talented bitch and he had nothing to do with it, and I wouldn't even say thank you. I'd be like, yep, I'm just that good. Sorry.
Amazing answer. Yeah. It's like, you didn't ask him to do that. Yeah.
I didn't tell you to do it.
Yeah. He went very, very far out of his way to do that shit. It's crazy.
That's great. You're acting a little obsessed with me. Thank you.
It's a bit much, yeah. But thank you, I guess. Never mind. You don't deserve it. Okay, great. All right. Okay, so you're lying again. Mm-hmm. Chuwon's mother, rich mother, she hates you. She hates you because you're poor. She shows up at your house and tells you not to see her son, right? Tells you not to see your son because you're an orphan, and orphans have shitty upbringings. What do you do?
I would say, well, when I was in your son's body, I fucked me while your son was in my body. And she would go, what? And I would go, what?
What? Get out.
Huh? What?
Get out of my house. Okay. Yeah, you just have to confuse her because what she's saying is so rude. It's like you got to baffle her and then make her leave. Good. I like that. Okay.
Make her spiral.
into a chaos of confusion. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're Juwon's mother who just said all these terrible things to the woman that your son loves. But then you realize that the man who rescued your son years ago from an elevator fire was actually Laim's firefighter dad, who ended up
Whoa.
sacrificing his life while rescuing your son. And you just said all these terrible things to that firefighter's daughter. What do you do?
Can I cook?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe bring like a lasagna to the fire station. Sorry about all that. Thanks for the hard work out there, boys.
Okay, I like that.
I would imagine they actually don't make a lot of lasagna in Korea, do they?
Well, that's why it's special.
Yeah.
It's like the only homemade lasagna in South Korea ever. Yeah. Okay, great. All right, so you're Chuan. Laim breaks up with you out of the blue. She doesn't explain why. She just dumps you, tells you it's over. And then you find out later that your mom went to her house and offered her like millions of dollars to break up with you. What do you do?
I would ask for the same amount of money that she got. I would say, well, if she gets money for breaking up with me, then I also deserve an equal amount of money for
Yeah.
being dumped.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Yeah, you're both heartbroken. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. And then I would use the additional 3 million. Or how many millions did I get?
It's just several million. Let's say 7
Several
million.
million.
Yeah.
I would take that several million and I would go back to the girl and say, you can have this several millions of dollars to get back together with me. So now she has what? Several upon several millions of dollars. And I've figured out a maneuver to get around the situation completely.
Oh, you're a capitalist. That's genius. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you
such
very
a
much.
great entrepreneurial move. You win it all. Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, awesome. These are great answers. There's two more questions and we're done. All right. So you're Chuan, okay?
Okay.
You're that bratty guy. Lion gets into a severe car accident during a stunt scene, and the doctors say that she's brain dead, never gonna wake up. What do you do?
I also try to forget this whole thing. The whole. Well, looks like we went through a lot of trouble just to get to absolutely nothing. So, so I guess I just take a nap, and try to forget all of it.
Wow. You're so pragmatic. Like all your answers are very pragmatic. Yeah, like we said, with ease and grace. That's the healthier
Yes.
choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, final question, all right? You're Laim, okay? You wake up out of your comatose state. You wake up, but you're in Juwon's body. Your body is still comatose, and you realize that Juwon switched your bodies because of that thing that you guys have,
Yeah.
so that he can be comatose while you get to live in his body. What do you do?
Walk away from the situation. Pretend that nothing just went down. Say thanks a lot. See ya. I'll tell you what I don't do, though. I do not become a stuntman. I do not do that. I learned my lesson. I will not be going back to that profession.
Yeah, you don't need to. You have all this money now.
Yeah.
You have the several upon severals of millions. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. These are great. Thank you.
Good. You're welcome.
Thank you for the time. It was a great chat. And
Yeah.
I'm
No,
gonna
I had
see you
fun.
super soon. I'm gonna see you next
Yeah.
week.
Sounds good. Thanks so much.